Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sandy Frank's political podcast for a people's movement against the corporate fascist state. I'm your host, Sandy Frank. Uh, and before we start, just to talk about the title of this so-called podcast. It's not even a podcast. It's just it is a YouTube video series that I've also set up a Twitter and a Facebook for, which I am recording on the video action on an iPhone 5. I have an iPhone 5, I believe, and I'm literally uploading a video, which I really just have a piece of clothing over the camera so it appears like there's no image, and then I take that video and I upload it onto my computer. So I don't know what you call this. It's definitely not a podcast. It's a it's a video without an image, audio only video, uploaded from a phone. I don't even know what this is, but for now we call it a podcast. But I wanted to go into the other part of the title. It's called a people's movement. And before we start, kind of, when we say people's movement, we're really talking about a revolution, as in, I'm no American patriot, but of a movement very similar to the 1776 movement of anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism of the British Empire, and a bunch of independent citizens, well, very wealthy citizens with a lot of, let's call it corporate influence, like, all of these founders. But really, they came from, they had a lot of different ideas, the states' rights versus federalism, and obviously slavery was a big issue for these people. But the point is that these citizens, these white male landowning citizens who came together to form this movement, and yeah, of course there were a lot of women and non-whites involved in the American Revolution, but obviously the head of it was very predominantly white male. A lot of women and a lot of other non-white people, but very predominantly white male. But just emphasis on the word revolution. These people, for as much as we might disagree with their views on economics and politics, these people were revolutionaries. They did stand up and overthrow their government, and that's, and you have revolutions in Russia and Cuba and France and all over throughout history. So that's what we're really talking about here. And yes, we are talking about a revolution and a movement in the terms of the overthrow of the corporate fascist United States government and world government is what we're talking about. We're not talking about violence as a goal, because it's of course not a goal. It's just a product of the conditions put upon the people by the corporate fascist state. Violence is of course something that's going to rise from something like this, from a revolution. Revolutions are not safe. They're not tea parties. They're not, well, not in the terms of the Boston Tea Party. That was very revolutionary, the destruction of property. But this isn't some garden party, tepid think piece in Salon magazine. This is not what a people's movement is, and it's not what a revolution is. A revolution is massive civil disobedience, massive non-cooperation, which is what we're going for. Our people's movement, we want to define it as global mass civil disobedience and civil non-cooperation. So that's really what we want to be working for, to get back our democracy, which we which we don't have. The people of 1776, the colonies, they didn't have a democracy. They lived by colonialism and aristocracy and monarchy, and they fought those things to create a constitution which supposedly sets up a democratic republic, even though it doesn't. But that is also the goal of our people's revolution, is to set up a democracy, because obviously the fact of the Princeton study and so many other studies, Harvard, Yale, so many studies throughout, and not just recent studies, of course, studies from way back show that we don't live in a democracy. There is really no functioning democracy. At least in this country, we have an oligarchy, so that's what our people's revolution is about, accomplishing the overthrow of the corporate fascist global state. So today, this video is going to be about a lot of things, but we're really going to be focusing on the uselessness of the Democratic Party and really the insidiousness of the Democratic Party and also Republican Party, because this is really one corporate fascist, corporate media psychological operation, PSYOP, with the corporate media on the people of the world. We're talking about hashtag she persisted, and the ridiculousness of the Democratic Party thinking that anybody still believes that this little Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders hashtag PSYOP campaign, is fooling anyone anymore. And, they know good and well that they're fooling a lot less people than they used to with this kind of theatrical bullshit that really became the hallmark of the Obama era. The media would just play some little drama teleplay about how Barack Obama is so subjugated and how the Republicans are so mean, and that's why we can't have health care or public education. So, CNN and MSNBC and NPR right now might as well just be, instead of what they're airing, they might as well just be showing an episode of like Downton Abbey with the hashtag she persisted. It has just as much journalistic integrity and makes just as much sense pertaining to actual newsworthy events happening in our world right now. They might as well just be airing some masterpiece theater drama teleplay on PBS, some Downton Abbey show with social values light, because that's really all it is. It's just some teleplay put in our heads to make it seem like, and they do fool a lot of people into thinking that this Liz Warren bullshit is at all journalism, at all news media, and also that the Democrats at all care about race rights, women's rights, anything that they're claiming that any of this is about. So we start with the Martin Luther King's niece has come out. I think this is like day 3 or 4. It's February 9th, 2017. This is like day 3 or 4 of the corporate media PSYOP of the hashtag she persisted campaign. And now we have Martin Luther King's niece coming out and calling out the Democrats for the same reasons that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Coretta King called out the Democrats back in the 60s and throughout time. And so now Martin Luther King's niece is coming out and saying what Martin Luther King would say, as in the corporate media and the white liberal Democrat fascist, the smiley face fascist who trick people who care about women's rights and race rights and gay rights. The Democrats trick these people into thinking that the Democrats are actually doing something by way of civil rights. And Martin Luther King's niece is coming out, and I'm just wondering where her hashtag campaign, She Persisted campaign, Martin Luther King's niece, I wonder where her hashtag She Persisted campaign is when she's persisting and saying that Elizabeth Warren is nothing but a smiley-faced white liberal wolf in sheep's clothing corporate fascist that the likes of Malcolm X and MLK warned about. So now we have the media performing a complete and utter masterpiece theater drama show while there are real problems in the world, and the corporate media is allowed to keep functioning when it is playing this Elizabeth Warren bullshit as the lead story in every news cycle. It's only about this letter, and then you go Trump, Elizabeth Warren, Trump, Elizabeth Warren, Trump, Elizabeth Warren all day for the last forever, because this is how corporate media functions. But I just wanted to ask the questions that how many since the hashtag She Persisted campaign from a few days ago started, how many unarmed black citizens have been murdered by brutal, idiot, low IQ, moron police officers, and how many people have been killed by U.S. foreign policy since the hashtag She Persisted campaign? How many people has the Israeli government killed in Palestine since the hashtag She Persisted campaign? How many people in the United States of America have died because of a lack of healthcare and access to medicine and healthcare since the hashtag She Persisted campaign? How many people have turned to crime in the United States of America because of lack of education and poverty and starvation and lack of means? How many people have turned to crime since the hashtag She Persisted campaign? How many people have how many homeless people have died? I'm in the Northeast. We're getting hit by snow right now. It's completely everywhere. It's a massively cold, massive amounts of snow. How many homeless people in the United States of America have died in the last few days since the hashtag She Persisted campaign? And where are their hashtags? It's funny how these corporate manufactured controlled opposition bullshit hashtag campaigns and all these bullshit Salon articles and New York Times articles and Washington Post articles, how many people have these corporate media organizations actually tried to help since the beautiful genius Elizabeth Warren got told to shut up? How many people? So we have the complete hypocrisy of the corporate fascist media, who do nothing but sheepdog and gaslight and play episodes of Downton Abbey when they should be reporting on healthcare and public education and ending wars and breaking up banks and Standing Rock and environmentalism. How long will this go on for before the people decide that the mass media will speak for the people instead of the corporations. And we are seeing a lot of people waking up. We're seeing a lot of action. Like, statistically speaking, people are very much waking up. People are really getting involved and getting out of their sense of complacency that the election of Donald Trump has really created. In these fake progressive corporate fascist Barack Obama lovers. We are seeing a great awakening with people, but that doesn't mean people are being led to the right type of movements. Of course, the corporate fascist media is sucking all these people up into their dumbass hashtag campaigns that accomplish nothing and are made to accomplish nothing, just create more divisiveness. I'm not sure if you know about the journalist Manar Muhawesh. I'm not sure her name. I've seen her on. She does a lot of videos, and I've seen her on Redacted Tonight with Lee Camp, another great show. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing her name right. Manar Muhawesh. She's saying a lot of great things about the importance of moving all of these recently awakened people into movements that can actually help them, and trying to inform them against these corporate fascist movements that are nothing but episodes of Downton Abbey and Masterpiece Theater. And don't get me wrong, I like Downton Abbey. It has no place in news media. It has a place on Netflix or whatever, but when we're talking about the corporate fascist state, which has stolen our news media, and we only hear what corporations want us to hear, then obviously that's a huge problem. And we're not going to solve that problem through the voting system. We're only going to solve that problem by canceling cable subscriptions and massive protests of CNN and MSNBC and NPR, and massive civil disobedience. It's not just holding signs. It's actually finding ways of protest that defund these places and make them lose their money and lose their credibility and lose their ability to broadcast. I'm even for the destruction of the property that sends these things out. I know I don't know that much about how CNN actually broadcasts, and I'm sure it's not really a realistic idea, but if there are ways to stop these places from broadcasting, I'm all for it. Burn some TV station down. That needs to be done if we're gonna get out of this stranglehold of corporate fascism. But we have a nation that focuses on all of the nonsense and all of the Donald Trump drama without focusing wholly on the fact that Barack Obama and Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats in their 8 years of bullshit and jerking people off and getting away with it because people were brainwashed by this corporate media that told them Barack Obama loved them and the Republicans are mean and you can't have health care because you just need to go with it, and Barack Obama can't do anything when he had control of the government for 4 years. His first 2 years, and then after he won re-election in 2012, he had the full ability to create progressive change, and he never was a progressive, so it never happened. And anyone who denies this is a joke, honestly. Either you're a corporate fascist who's getting a lot of money out of it, like Rachel Maddow or John Oliver or NPR, or you're an idiot, or you're just someone who literally exhibits addictive behavior when it comes to things like Comedy Central and MSNBC and NPR and the nightly news programs, which are in just rapid decline, and also the corporate fake progressive news sources online like the Young Turks and Sam Cedar and Ring of Fire. These hack partisan phonies, and they're hack partisan phonies. They're all rich. They all do not care about progressive values. They care about their audience, which thinks they care about progressive values. So we need to also be treating these things as if they are the problem, because they are. So I guess this video will be about all the things that have happened that haven't made the corporate news since, and not just since, hashtag she persisted, but in general. And of course we have Israel almost never making the corporate news. We have more killing in Palestine very recently. Of course, nowhere to be seen. Benjamin Netanyahu is still is still walking free. The United States went to war with Libya on the basis that Libya and Iraq, that Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein were brutal dictators. Benjamin Netanyahu is just as much as a fucking brutal dictator psycho as Gaddafi and Hussein, and I'm no fan of Gaddafi and Hussein. I just don't think that was the right way to bring change to the Middle East, by doing things that we know doesn't bring change, like dropping bombs on people. But it just shows how unfair the corporate fascist media is, where we will kill millions in Iraq and Libya in the Middle East, but Israel does the same thing as these people and we finance them. So there's a blatant hypocrisy, and you think this would be the newsworthy story, but no, it's poor innocent Elizabeth Warren and an episode of Downton Abbey, and complete and utter partisan hack bullshit. We see what's happening in Israel, and the corporate media doesn't say anything. And even with Trump's appointees, we see the nonsense. We see, we have all these people all these Democrats who voted for Trump's appointees, getting a free pass, and just the utter complete joke of Merrick Garland and all of that shit with Barack Obama, just proving how phony this corporate fascist partisan game really is. For a year, the Republicans could block, and I'm no Merrick Garland fan. I don't want Merrick Garland, the corporatist, on the Supreme Court, even though he would have a better record of pretending to be for women's rights and gay rights than anyone Trump would appoint. But they spent a year of this media psyop, this episode of this episode of House of Cards, where Barack Obama was just the poor innocent guy who couldn't get his Supreme Court justice nominated, and the Democrats, the Republicans would block the nomination. Oh, then the Democrats didn't know what to do. And you could bet when the Democrats ever have to appoint a Republican's choices, they won't do it. And so we flash forward to all of Donald Trump's cabinet appointees being approved. I think this is the first time in history, or not the first time in history, but the first time in a very long time that all of the cabinet choices have been approved. Donald Trump's Again, this is the media that claimed to be anti-Trump, the Democratic establishment media, and now the entire Democratic establishment is allowing everyone that Donald Trump brought in to be nominated. So it's a complete hypocrisy that they, were spent all this time building up this little episode of TV about Merrick Garland, and then when they have, where they have to put their money where their mouth is and block all of these appointees, anyone who voted for any of these people is a danger to our world, the same way that anyone who voted for Barack Obama's appointees is a danger to our world. But we have Bernie Sanders voting for the appointees, Liz Warren, and the rest of the corporate Democrats, and this is not enough to tell you that you are being brainwashed and led with a bullshit narrative that is not realistic, that the Democrats and the Republicans are the equal corporatists who are doing nothing but playing a little game and telling you how the Republicans are meanie bobinis, and the Republicans telling you how the Democrats are dangerous and don't know what they're doing. And, they're both right, because both of these political parties have been set up to be that. The Democrats are paid to look this weak. Elizabeth Warren is paid to look as pathetic as she looks all the time. And the Republicans are paid to be, just as bad, just seem like Paul Ryan wants to euthanize all the homeless people in the country. And they do, but the point is all of them do, including the Democrats, and it is the same fucking game that they're playing. But hashtag she persisted is complete bullshit. But yeah, if this isn't enough to make you completely give up on the duopoly two-party system, then I don't know what is. If you're able to be pushed around like this, so it really calls for the importance of a people's revolution. And I might even change the name of the podcast. That's not even a podcast, to be about a revolution. But one of the first steps in this revolution is taking back the media. I've described myself as a Marxist, and not really much of a Leninist, but where Lenin got it right is he talked about the importance of a propaganda machine. If you're gonna have this people's revolution, and you're gonna create this movement of people, then you better be able to get your information out, and you better be able to, and I mean it very much, to control people with information. We want a free and fair, independent media, but we also need a media that's effective for a time to counter the corporate fascist media and all of their lies. And we really need to use social media to create that type of propaganda machine. And I do mean the term propaganda machine. We can't have, if you want a people's revolution, you can't have the Cenk Uygurs going, well, Patty Murray's kind of progressive sometimes, and Liz Warren, she's a saint. You can't have that, or you're going to be divided, and you're going to have a failure in your movement. I'm just talking about if we want to succeed. Yeah, we can start our people's revolution and continue to have Cenk Uygur say that they love Bernie Sanders and all this bullshit, when Bernie Sanders is one of the biggest corporate fascists of them all. But we need a media that can counter the corporate fascist media in a real way. So yeah, there's So much we still wanna talk about here, but the point of this video is really showing the illusion that the corporate media puts in front of our eyes. And is when you finally realize this, it's always very powerful for people when they step back and look just at what the CNNs and the MSNBCs are doing. These are the same people who right now are helping revive the career of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This is someone who should be in prison for the rest of her life for rigging the election system. Not just, again, watch my video on what was done to Bernie Sanders. Watch my video on how it wasn't just media collusion, and it wasn't just polling places being shut down and all this. Yes, this was all happening, but we need to understand the main point is that, especially even after the Democratic primary, our government, because Barack Obama signed it into law, our voting, our election systems are now completely controlled by the corporate controlled state. Completely. We have sham democracy. We had a sham democracy. We had sham voting machines and sham ballot counting during the Democratic primary and all other times through U.S. history. But now it got even worse with Barack Obama going out the door. And we even have an independent, quote unquote, progressive media like the Young Turks and Secular Talk and all of this bullshit, who are saying things like voting machine manipulations and flipping votes isn't real, and that it's not happening, and that's ridiculous. We have good people like Richard Sharnin and Bev Harris and Debbie Lusignan who have been fighting for this. But when we have these people in the so-called revolution like Cenk Uygur, who are obviously corporatists, obviously just sheepdogging people to stick with the bullshit Democratic Party, when we have these bullshit artists in our revolution, then we don't have a revolution and we don't have a movement. And I'm not talking about tarring and feathering people. I'm just talking about coming from a place of truth, talking from a place of reality. That if you think Liz Warren, who voted for the explosion of the surveillance state, if you think this person deserves a hashtag campaign, if you think this person deserves all this fucking time in the media for doing nothing, she's accomplishing nothing. She's not talking about anything that actually concerns the people of this country or the people of the world. And it's nothing but an insult and disservice to our media by what Liz Warren is knowingly doing. And jeez, there's really just no one as pathetic as Liz Warren, and no one so dangerous. This what do we even call people like Liz Warren and Bernie Sanders? They come across as the warmest people, and they are really anything but. Bernie Sanders looks like the Muppet grandpa of imperialism. Liz Warren is, she looks like just someone not to be trusted, because she can trick people so easily with her happy smiley face personality, and that's the same problem with Barack Obama. So it's just gonna keep coming day after day, and through corporate fascist media. I don't know if you're familiar with Brandolini's law, which says it takes more effort to refute bullshit than it does to put bullshit out, which is really the lesson to be learned from the corporate media, and the reason why it's so important to have our our own media that's able to counter the partisan corporate game being played with journalism on television and on the internet and print. We go back to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who are rolling over in their graves right now, having their names be connected to this media psyop committed by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and Mitch McConnell. Malcolm X warned about Elizabeth Warren, long before Elizabeth Warren's time. Malcolm X warned about the smiley-faced liberals who will scare you into thinking that, these Mitch McConnell Republicans are going to kill them, because Liz Warren wants to kill these people and hurt these people just as much as the Republicans. This is exactly what Malcolm X would talk about President Johnson, how these people do nothing but fearmonger and sheepdog and gaslight, and it's like, what exactly is the purpose of Liz Warren's little stand here? What exactly is she trying to accomplish? She's not saying anything about healthcare or education or poverty or homelessness or basic income or housing or anything. In fact, Liz Warren approved Ben Carson as the head of housing. I don't think there's anything more dangerous in the world. Ben Carson, who has an open contempt for the poor and for poor people and for the less fortunate. Liz Warren is now the hero of civil rights and Martin Luther King and stopping the racism of economic fascism imposed on black people in the United States of America. And Liz Warren is now some sort of authority on this when she voted for a fascist like Ben Carson, who's going to do nothing but hurt lower income people. Is that what's going to happen? Oh wait, no, it's just an episode of Downton Abbey where we play identity politics victims and all this. And that's all it is, folks. And anyone who's going to tell you that, progress step by step, as if any progress has even been accomplished in the past however long. These people will tell you that progress takes time, which is true, but these people have zero desire to create any type of progress. When a total regressive and fascist like Elizabeth Warren tells you that things take time, yeah, of course she's right, but that's like a serial killer, saying that not murdering people is important. Yeah, you're right, Jeffrey Dahmer, but you're pouring acid into my brain as you say that, and I kind of think you're full of shit. So again, the complete hypocrisy of the Democrats and the complete need to tear down this entire corporate fascist duopoly partisan hack system, because it's so very dangerous. And this is just the only thing that ever comes out. If you listen to NPR for 5 seconds, you want to shoot yourself in the head, because it's just so blatant in their lies, and it's very artful the way that NPR operates. They day after day, they know how to uphold this corporate fascist system so well. I'll listen to NPR for 10 minutes and what will be in my brain is, Muslim people are evil dogs that need to be bombed. The Democrats were powerless to stop any of Trump's appointees because of because of they're the victims trying to play the victim card again and again and again. These millionaires and billionaires who are sheepdogging these fake progressives and these brainwashed Barack Obama lovers. These idiots. What else does NPR say? That, God, the education debate with NPR, these fake progressives who actually bring up a debate about public and private education. It's ridiculous. They don't know. It's always, and the neutrality of it too is, we don't know which works. No, we know public education around the world has led to the most educated people on the planet, and that private corporate education is a death trap that helps no one besides the super rich. And there's privatized education actually leads to stupider people, believe it or not. Hey, paying $10,000 for a child's for like a high school education at like a private religious school actually makes stupider people. Oh wow, I wouldn't have even believed it. So NPR is nothing but a cancer that cannot be trusted and needs to be destroyed. And again, how would we go about bringing down corporate media? How would we take state-controlled NPR down? And the point is, I don't really know, but we've already seen massive boycotts of CNN and massive and very, very big boycotts and protests outside of CNN in Los Angeles and all over. And that accomplishes something. Of course, we have Donald Trump coming out before the inauguration and calling CNN fake news. That was hilarious. How funny is that? CNN paid billions of dollars to raise up Trump to scare people into voting for Hillary Clinton. He wins and calls CNN fake news. So CNN paid billions upon billions of dollars to be called fake news in front of the entire planet. And that was from Amir Amini. He's a Twitter following, is someone I follow on Twitter. It's very funny, progressive activist Amir Amini, and that's what he said when that happened. Like, CNN paid billions upon billions of dollars to be called fake news in front of the entire world. But yeah, protests can do a lot, but forming our own media organization with the manifesto of tearing down corporate funded PR firms masquerading as journalism, that's another very important way. We really need to unify our media outlets to stop these smiley-faced Elizabeth Warren fascists. And that speaks to the importance of a manifesto of sorts, a people's summit where we come together and really much like the founders did when they came together to form the Declaration of Independence, and then later to create a system of government. But of course, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, there was a lot of disagreements between how everything should be run, obviously. But they were able to, and these are people of all different beliefs: conservative, communist, libertarian, progressive, liberal, moderate, all types. These people were all able to come together to create some sort of political action that took down the corporate fascist state, and that's our enemy, and that's what our movement needs to be about. these of course before defeating the British, they all had a lot of differences in opinions, as we've talked about, but they were able to come together for this purpose, which is what we really, really need to do. No matter what your opinions on anything are, the founders were able to put those aside for a time, but we are going to get nowhere in what we want out of our lives if we continue to let CNN and NPR and Liz Warren and the Democrats dictate what we think and read and hear and see. The media is such an important part of this because as little as people might know it, the media has a huge effect on what people do. It really does. Donald Trump would not be where he was if he did not get billions of dollars of free media. He just wouldn't. He was not popular. He was not a popular candidate. He was not a popular person. People did not want him, especially within the conservative movement, anti-globalization, anti-corporatization conservative movement. They did not want Trump, and the media rammed him up their butts, and now here we are with Jeff Sessions and Betsy DeVos and all these people. And don't get me wrong, just because I deservedly rip on these corporate Democrats doesn't I don't want Betsy DeVos to be the head of the education for a minute. I want her deposed. I want her taken out of power any way possible, and that goes the same for Liz Warren. I feel the same way about Liz Warren as I do about Betsy fucking DeVos, and that is we need to depose them and get them out of the positions they are in, because they are playing a game with our lives. They are destroying people's lives. How many people have died in the United States of America in the last few days because of insufficient health care, no access to health care, and all this? Just in the last 72 hours since she persisted gate, since all this bullshit. How many people? You think Liz Warren gives a shit about those people? You think in the 8 years the Democrats had control of our government and didn't do anything for us? You think the Democrats give a shit? Barack Obama had the power. If he was an actual progressive, Barack Obama had the power to turn our government into the type of progressive, what progressives say and want, and what people like me, a Marxist / progressive, says that they want, as in national health service, universal public education, especially higher education, the basic income, breakup of the corporations and the banks, redistribution of wealth, the end of imperialism, the end of United States warfare, the end of nations, basically. We had the power to do this under Barack Obama. For 4 years he had complete control of the government and did nothing. Imagine the world we could have built if Barack Obama was the person he lied and said he was. Imagine where we would be right now if in the January, February. Imagine if it was February 9th, 2009. First few while under Barack Obama. Imagine if it was an actual progressive movement. Oh wait, what did Barack Obama do once he won the presidency? All those progressive movements and those progressive coalitions that came together to get Barack Obama elected, Barack Obama disbanded and said, "Get lost." And he got rid of all the progressives who had gotten him elected, and that was a wake up call for millions of progressives. That this person was a liar. But imagine if he didn't. Imagine if he got He did what a democratically elected president was supposed to do and get a lot of people together to get in the streets and say, hey, we want healthcare, we want education, we want what the rest of the world has. Imagine if we did that. Oh no, but of course the corporate media put all of the left to sleep. Imagine if we had a non-corporate controlled media at that time that was, independently run and had actual differing opinions. Imagine if we had that at that time of Barack Obama's first few days as president. Imagine if we had a media that formed people into action to get what we wanted. And so the biggest problem is really the media. One of the biggest problems, because if the media was the way it was before Bill Clinton and before the corporatization of the media, we could have had some sort of movement in some sorts against the fascism of Barack Obama. We could have moved Barack Obama to the left. We could have had massive civil disobedience to the so-called Republican opposition, which was really just all the entire duopoly opposition, just a little Downton Abbey teleplay about how it's only the Republicans. If we had our own media source back then, Barack Obama's presidency could have been a lot different, as in actually progressive and not just the explosion of the corporate fascist Bush era. Imagine. So the media has such a huge part to do with this, and we really need to form our own people's media to get our information to each other, and we need to destroy CNN. The Democrats and the corporate fake left media, all they did for 8 years is play this little episode of Downton Abbey where they race bait and gender bait and LGBT bait. They played House of Cards for 8 years of, Barack Obama's so opposed, and so much partisanship, it's the poor Barack Obama. When Barack Obama and all of these corporate fascists were just reading from a script written by the insurance companies to save the corporations, and that's all that was happening. So we can either learn from the mistakes of wasted 8 years of the progressive movement that never happened, we can learn from it, or we can keep watching CNN and keep hashtagging She Persisted and keep worshiping the golden cow, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, or we can stop with the partisanship, we can come together, and we can depose these people through civil disobedience, and we can create a government that works for all people. And if you're waiting for 2018, and if you're waiting for 2020 to come around to save you, then friend, you've fucking missed the point completely. Alright, we're waiting for Malcolm X and Martin Luther King to get us out into the streets to scare these people into shutting down the corporate state and giving the people the government that it's as if it's a mystery in the corporate media. When Bernie Sanders was campaigning and talking about healthcare, the media is like, well, we tried, and I don't know, we corporations and opposition, so it didn't work, so it's over. This is what they do. They're like alcoholic parents trying to admit they don't have a problem. Like, we tried and it didn't work, and so now we're just gonna continue doing it. These people are victims too. These corporatists who are so in a part of this system. A lot of these people want to break the system, but they can't. They don't know how, because this is a systemic problem that's gotten out of control. And the only way we can stop it is through massive civil disobedience. So, and again, these people are victims. I think Liz Warren is a victim. I think Mitch McConnell is a victim. They're victims of greed and corporatism and need to continue the corporate fascist state. And they need to be helped, but they need to be stopped. And that's what we need to do. We really need to stop them, because it's gotten out of control. The United States is destroying the earth, and we know what type of government we should have. A government that provides healthcare to its people and education to its people. We know this. It is the vast majority of Americans and people in the world who want this, and is being stopped by nothing but a small group of very wealthy people who are on a train that's running out of control, and it's about to crash, and it's about to take all of us with it. There's about to be a lot of violence and a lot of unrest, and we better get smart, and we better take back this government, or who the hell knows what the Mad Max Trump era could turn into. Because people are getting pissed, and people on Donald Trump supporters getting pissed, Hillary Clinton supporters getting pissed, and there's no telling what the corporate media will make these people do to each other when people get mad enough. And I'm talking either a second American Civil War or a second or a third World War. And we better get out in the streets, and we better shut down the corporate media before they lead us off a cliff. But yeah, fuck the Democrats. They're nothing but liars and corporatists. And my name is Sandy Frank. Thank you for listening. Please like this video, leave a comment, retweet, anything you can to get this out. And I will see you in the next one.